Alright, so I've been holding off on this camera for a while now. Ever since it came out, I was a little skeptical, but after months of filming with my C70, I thought it was time to get something a little smaller so that I'm not suffering and breaking my back every time I go shoot cars. My Canon C70 barely works properly on the Ronin M, more on that later, but before I dive into my experience and first thoughts with this camera, here's a little comparison versus my current vlog camera, the Canon EOS R. As you can see, the R and the R5 look pretty similar. Obviously with the battery grip, the R5 is significantly larger. The biggest difference physically with the bodies is that the R5 has dual card slots, whereas the R only has one slot. The R has this touch bar, which I find kind of annoying because I always bump it on accident. The R5 sports a joystick, which I think is much better. The R5 also has a thumb scroll wheel, which is much more ergonomic in my opinion than the basic thumb pad that the R has. Both bodies are weather sealed. As far as video specs, I'm not going to go into too much detail because quite frankly the R5 is just better in every way possible when it comes to the video specs, so I'll just throw all the specs on the screen for you to check out. Now in comparison with the C70, obviously the C70 is much larger and heavier, almost to a fault. The R5 is way more compact and ends up being easier to use, especially on a gimbal. The C70 however has a built-in ND filter system which is super clutch, mini XLR audio inputs, and no real recording limits or overheating. When the R5 was announced and people were getting their hands on them, everybody was complaining about the notorious overheating issues it had. When shooting 8K or any high frame rate video in 4K, it would overheat. Granted, nobody really should be using 8K for YouTube purposes. Now the solution to this problem would be just getting an Atomos Ninja 5 and recording externally so that you can bypass all the recording limits and overheating. So that's what I did. Now paired with the Ninja 5, I can shoot in the 4K HQ in the 4K HQ mode for much longer. I used to shoot with the 1DX Mark II for 3 years, and now the R5 basically is my replacement. Especially after adding the battery grip and the drop-in ND filter adapter, it's a pretty solid camera for everyday use and for photography. Before we move on, I gotta give a huge shout out to Aperture for sending me these awesome LED lights. If you didn't notice, I used their lights all throughout this video and it wouldn't have been possible to get these cool B-roll shots without them. Here I have their AL-MX LED light as well as their MC RGB LED lights. For being so small, the MX light is super bright, and I mean really bright. I'm definitely gonna be carrying this with me everywhere. It's just great to have something this small that can light up your scene in a pinch. The RGB lights are really cool too. They even have an app where you can control them via Bluetooth. There's all sorts of modes you can play with, and what's even more cool is that they are magnetic. So I can totally see myself just sticking these underneath the car if I'm filming or working underneath a vehicle. If you guys want to purchase some quality lights and lighting accessories, I say look no further and just go with Aperture. All the products along with all the gear I used to make this video are going to be linked in the description below. Alright, so usually when I'm balancing the C70, the standard plate does not work, so I have to use this Cinemilled dovetail plate. And what this plate essentially does is it mounts on as usual, but over here you have these extra threaded holes. C70 itself doesn't quite fit correctly onto the Ronin M. You're going to have to use a counterweight system. It's very heavy on this side, so you need to add counterweight onto the other side. Go ahead and put the counterweight over here. I believe this is 8 ounces total to offset the weight on the left side of the camera so that it stays like that. So in the end, this ends up being a very heavy setup. Not really a fan of it. All right, now with the R5, I'm able to use the standard Ronin M base plate. You know, mirrorless form factor just ends up working way better for the Ronin M. Don't really need to do many adjustments aside from the basic, oh shit. And just like that, it's pretty much balanced. Just a lot easier and very, very light compared to the C70 setup.
So you don't get all that forearm strength from jacking off? What?
Alright, so is the R5 worth buying? With dual pixel autofocus, plus face tracking, plus in-body stabilization, plus a flip screen, this thing is a killer camera for photography and vlogging. I would note that the in-body stabilization is a little jarring when using a wide-angle lens. As you can see here, the edges of the screen do this weird wobbly effect as it's trying to stabilize the video. Now the 8K is there if you need it, assuming your computer can handle it. If you care about high megapixels, this camera will definitely please you. The photos I took with this camera are just incredible. If you want to see more of my photography, go check out my Instagram at spamsubi. Like all Canons, the ergonomics of the camera body are top notch. It's very comfortable in the hands, and you just know this camera is built to last. The menu system is also very easy to navigate. Overall, the camera has a lot of pro photo and video features while still being easy to use, all packed in a decently small size. For beginners or hobbyists, I would recommend just getting the R or even the R6. If you make a living doing photography and need some really good pro video features on the side, the R5 is not a bad choice at all. So that's it for today's video. I just wanted to do a little review on this camera. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel as I upload lots of cinematic content and video tutorials as well as car vlogs. I also just released some new merch at spamsubi.com and restocked some of your guys' favorite stickers and shirts. More videos to come next week. I'll see you guys next time.